A homeless woman saved a child from a fire. Minutes later, a CEO millionaire came searching for her. It was a cold, overcast morning in the suburbs of Portland, the kind of winter day that felt heavier than usual. Clouds hung low, frost still clung to rooftops, and the streets were unusually quiet beneath a sky that threatened snow but never delivered. However, that silence shattered just after 8 a.m. when thick black smoke began curling into the sky above a luxury apartment complex known as Hawthorne Residences, a high-end gated building nestled among sleek condos and manicured trees. The fire had started in a second-floor unit, likely due to an electrical fault, and spread faster than expected. Flames licked through the hallway, consuming drywall, melting plastic, and triggering chaos as residents rushed out into the cold, barely dressed, clutching dogs and cell phones. From across the street, in the shadow of an abandoned service station, Anna Blair, 26 years old, stirred from where she had been curled under a faded blanket. Her blue eyes blinked against the smoke, the bitter wind stinging her face as she sat up and took in the scene. Sirens echoed in the distance, but they were still minutes away. Screams rang out, and somewhere above the fire a small child's cry pierced the air. People stood on the sidewalk shouting, filming, and panicking, but no one moved toward the flames. Anna stood pulling her oversized coat tighter around her thin frame and sprinted toward the building. Security guards yelled for her to stop, and a maintenance worker even tried to grab her arm, but she shook them off without a word. From the open glass doors, she could see the stairwell filling with smoke, and from the first-floor hallway came the sound again, closer this time. A child crying alone. Without hesitation, Anna charged into the heat. She dropped low, covering her nose with her sleeve as smoke stung her eyes. The lights overhead flickered, alarms blared, and the air was thick and suffocating. "Hello?" she shouted, coughing. "Where are you, baby?" A muffled sob answered. Anna turned a corner, and there he was, a little boy no older than 3, standing barefoot in cartoon pajamas. He clutched a small stuffed elephant, his cheeks streaked with soot and tears. She ran to him, kneeling down. "It's okay," she whispered hoarsely. "I've got you. I'm here." The boy didn't speak. He just reached for her. She scooped him up, wrapping her coat around his small frame. The hallway behind them crackled, and heat pressed against her back like a living thing. Anna ducked her head and bolted, holding the boy tightly as she retraced her path through the smoke. Every step burned, and her lungs screamed. Then came cold air, light, and voices. She stumbled out the door just as the first fire truck roared into the drive. Gasps rose from the crowd as she emerged covered in ash with wild hair and watering eyes. Paramedics rushed forward. She handed the boy to a firefighter, her arms trembling. "He's okay," she rasped. "He was alone." The boy cried out once as she released him, but she was already backing away. Medics reached for her, asking for her name, but Anna shook her head. "I'm fine," she murmured, turning toward the street. No one followed her. No one stopped her. She disappeared back into the gray morning, fading like smoke. Not 5 minutes later, a black SUV screeched to a halt at the curb. The door flew open and Ethan Grayson, 34, sprinted out. He barely heard the voices calling after him. His only focus was the child now sitting in a paramedic's lap wrapped in a silver blanket. "Leo!" The boy turned. "Daddy!" Ethan scooped him into his arms, holding him so tightly it looked as if he'd never let go. "What happened? Who got him out?" A paramedic replied. "A woman. No one knows her name. Blonde, early 20s maybe. She just ran in, brought him out, then vanished." Ethan looked around, scanning the nearby faces, but she was gone. "She saved him?" he asked, his voice tight. "She did," the medic said without hesitation. "She was the only one who went in." Ethan pressed his lips to his son's forehead, his heart pounding. Leo was safe alive because of her. He turned back to the building, smoke still rising into the sky, and said quietly, more to himself than anyone else, "I'm going to find her." Ethan barely slept that night. The image of Leo clinging to a stranger, his tiny arms wrapped around someone he had never met, haunted him more than the flames ever could. He had asked everyone he could at the scene, firefighters, medics, and witnesses, but no one knew who she was. She was just a woman, someone who disappeared. By morning, Ethan had already pulled footage from the nearest street cameras and the gas station next door, watching hours of grainy clips. He watched them all frame by frame until he saw her blonde hair, a long, tattered coat, thin arms holding Leo against her chest as she stumbled into the smoke-filled street. She was coughing, but she never let go of him. Another angle showed her slipping around the corner, disappearing toward the old lot behind the gas station. By noon, Ethan stood outside the chain-link fence of a makeshift tent camp hidden behind a convenience store and a forgotten alleyway. His expensive coat looked out of place among the scraps of tarp and cardboard that shielded people from the cold. Leo clung to his hand, his other hand clutching a small stuffed dog. A man near the entrance eyed Ethan wearily. "You lost or something?" he asked. "I'm looking for someone," Ethan replied. "She was here yesterday, blonde, maybe in her 20s. "Lots of blondes," the man muttered. Ethan tried again. "She saved my son from the fire on 8th Street. There was a shift in the air. A few people nearby looked at him now, uncertain. One woman pointed further down the lot. "She keeps to herself, doesn't bother nobody, tent by the old tire stack." Ethan nodded and stepped forward, about to thank her, when he felt Leo's grip slip from his hand. "It's her!" Leo's voice rang out loud and sure. Ethan turned. The boy had taken off running on his little legs, straight toward a figure crouched near a pile of firewood. "It's you!" Leo shouted. "You're my angel! You made the fire go away! You made me not scared anymore!" The woman turned just in time to catch him, Anna. She looked stunned as Leo wrapped his arms around her neck, holding her tightly. Her hands hovered in the air, unsure, then slowly came down to rest on his back. She closed her eyes, her breath catching in her throat. When she opened them, Ethan was standing just a few feet away. Their eyes met for the first time. She started to speak, but words failed her. Ethan stepped closer, kneeling beside his son. He reached out gently, placing a hand on Leo's shoulder. "Is this her buddy?" Ethan asked. Leo nodded fiercely. "She kept me safe." Anna looked down, her cheeks flushed with cold and embarrassment. I just did what anyone would have done." "No," Ethan said softly. "You did what no one else did." She looked up again, her eyes cautious. "You're not in trouble," Ethan said. "And I'm not the media. I just wanted to say thank you properly." She shook her head gently. "No need, really." There was a silence broken only by the wind rustling the thin plastic walls of the tents nearby. Anna slowly released Leo, who stood beside her as if he belonged there. "I should go," she said, already turning back toward her tent. Ethan didn't stop her. He watched her disappear behind the folds of blue tarp. That evening, just before the sun dipped below the horizon, Anna found something resting just outside her tent, a small box. Inside, there was a pair of brand-new winter boots, thick socks, and a simple first aid kit. Tucked beneath them was a small folded note written in careful handwriting. "I do not know your name, but I know you are good. If you ever need anything at all, please let me know." Anna stared at the note for a long time, her fingers trembling. She did not smile, but for the first time in a very long while, she felt something. It started with warm coffee and paper cups. Ethan had begun visiting the camp every few days, not to intrude, but just to talk. He would bring something small each time, hot drinks, fruit, sometimes books. He never forced conversation. He just sat sometimes across from Anna on a broken crate, sometimes beside her on the curb, and let silence pass without pressure. She liked that about him. It was on the 5th visit, as the sun dipped low behind the rooftops, that she finally spoke of the things she had buried the deepest. They sat near the fire pit the residents of the camp used to keep warm. Smoke drifted up in lazy spirals. Anna stared into the flames, her fingers curled tightly around her cup. "You ever wonder how people end up like this?" she asked, not looking at him. Ethan waited a beat before answering. "Sometimes, but I figure there's always a story." She nodded. "Yeah, there's always a story." There was a long pause before she continued, her voice low, barely above the crackle of the fire. "My mom died when I was 9. Breast cancer. She was gone before I even understood what dying meant. After that, it was just me and my dad. He wasn't, well, he drank a lot. Too much. Some nights I'd sleep in the closet just to stay out of his way." Ethan didn't say a word. He just listened. "I left home at 17, took whatever job I could, waitressing, cleaning, babysitting. Eventually, I got steady work as a nanny. I loved it." Her voice softened. "Kids are honest, you know. They see you. They don't care about what you have, just how you make them feel." He watched her face in the firelight, worn but still beautiful, lined with pain, yet steady. "I used to dream about opening a place," she said, "a real center for moms who had no one. Safe childcare, food, a place to breathe. I thought maybe I could build something good from everything I came from." Ethan's heart tightened in his chest. "I met someone," Anna went on. "He was kind at first, said all the right things, told me I mattered. I believed him." She blinked slowly. "I got pregnant. I thought for once life was finally turning around." She paused, her breath catching slightly. "But when I told him, he left, just disappeared. No calls, no notes, nothing." She swallowed hard. "I was 7 months in when I lost the baby." Ethan's eyes widened, his voice barely audible. "I'm so sorry." Anna shook her head. "I had a job at the time, but I missed too much work and the bills piled up. I couldn't afford the rent. After the hospital, I had nowhere to go." Her voice broke on the next words. "One day, I just stopped being someone people saw." A heavy silence fell between them. The fire snapped and hissed, but neither of them moved. "I don't steal," she said finally. "I don't lie. I don't even beg. People offer sometimes, but I say no unless I truly need it. I can't give much. But when I have something, even just half a sandwich, I share it because I know what it's like to have nothing, and I know others here have even less." Her eyes, when they turned to him, were rimmed with quiet strength. "I'm not broken, Ethan. Just tired." He reached into the pocket of his coat and pulled out a clean, folded handkerchief, white, with neat blue stitching. He didn't speak. He simply reached forward and set it gently on the ground in front of her. Anna stared at it, her lips parting in surprise. No pity, no grand speeches, just a small act of kindness offered with respect. Her throat tightened. She picked up the cloth slowly, her fingers trembling. Something in her face softened. For the first time in a very long while, Anna Blair didn't feel invisible. One afternoon, as the winter sun filtered through the clouds in golden streaks, Ethan stood outside Anna's tent. Leo perched on his hip, grinning and sticky from a juice box. "I've got a few back-to-back meetings tomorrow," Ethan said. "I was wondering if you'd be willing to watch him for a couple of hours. He keeps asking for you anyway." Anna looked surprised, her eyes flicking between father and son. "Are you sure?" she asked. "He's never opened up to anyone the way he has with you," Ethan said. "Honestly, I'd be lucky to have you around." Anna hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Okay, but only if he wants me to." Leo answered by launching himself out of Ethan's arms and straight into hers. "She's my angel," he announced, making them both laugh. What began as a few hours a week turned into nearly every afternoon. Anna would pick Leo up from daycare when Ethan worked late or spend mornings with him on weekends at the nearby park. They developed rituals, pancakes on Saturdays from the food truck around the corner sidewalk, chalk drawings outside Ethan's office, and bedtime stories with silly voices. Anna became his constant, and in return, Leo gave her something she hadn't felt in years, a sense of home. One chilly evening, the three of them sat inside Ethan's townhouse near the edge of the city. Leo had fallen asleep on the couch beside Anna, curled up with his stuffed dog tucked beneath his chin. She gently scooped him into her arms and carried him upstairs, tucking him beneath his warm blankets. The nightlight glowed soft amber across the room. She sat beside him, brushing a curl from his forehead, and began to hum a lullaby, an old tune her mother once sang to her before everything fell apart. Leo stirred, his eyes fluttering open for a moment. "Anna," he whispered. "I'm right here, sweetheart." He reached for her hand, gripping her fingers with his small ones. "Can I call you Mama?" Anna froze, her breath caught in her chest. He looked at her sleepily, without expectation or pressure. "Just love, because you feel like her," he mumbled, drifting back to sleep. Anna bent down and pressed her cheek to his forehead, holding him tightly, her arms trembling. Tears rolled down her face, silently. She did not stop them. Downstairs, Ethan stood at the bottom of the staircase. He had come up moments before, intending to say goodnight, but stopped when he heard Leo's voice. He heard everything. When Anna finally emerged, wiping at her face quickly, she saw him there. Their eyes met his, soft with something unspoken. Hers, raw and vulnerable. Ethan didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The following weekend, he took Anna to see a plot of land on the city's east side. The old structure on it had been condemned years ago, and Ethan's firm had recently won the contract to redesign it into a community space. They walked the grounds together, Leo running ahead of them through weeds and gravel. "It'll be a youth center," Ethan said, stepping over a rusted pipe. "Maybe a shelter, depending on zoning." Anna paused, looking around with fresh eyes. "You know what this place really needs," she said. Ethan turned to her. "Tell me." "A child care center, but not just daycare. A full support center for single moms. Affordable, accessible, and safe. Somewhere women can leave their kids while they get job training, therapy, housing help, everything in one place." Ethan studied her face as she spoke, alive with passion, glowing with hope. "Do you know how many women are like me?" she continued. "They're not lazy, they're not broken, they're just stuck. And if they had a place like that, a real second chance." Ethan smiled slowly. "You've thought about this before," he said. "It was my dream once," she admitted. "Still is, I guess." He nodded, his heart full. "Then let's build it." Anna blinked. "You're serious?" "Completely," he replied. "I have the team, I have the land, and now I have the vision. Yours." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she smiled, small but real. Leo came bounding back toward them, his little arms full of wildflowers. "Look for you," he shouted, handing one to each of them. Ethan took her hand, their fingers brushing gently together. In the quiet warmth of that forgotten field, a bond began to take root. No longer gratitude, but something deeper, something real. Back at Ethan's studio, tucked above a quiet street near the river, Anna sat at a wide drafting table. Colored pencils were scattered between mugs of cooling tea. The room smelled faintly of cedar and ink, and the soft hum of jazz played in the background. A large blueprint stretched out before them. Across the top, in Ethan's clean handwriting, were the words, "Little Lights, a Community for Children and Hope." Anna held a pencil in her hand, but for a moment she just stared at the paper. "You really want my input on this?" she asked. Ethan looked up from his tablet. "I do. This is your vision. I just have the tools to make it real." She hesitated, then slowly began to sketch. She sketched a small classroom space with rounded corners, a reading nook by a window, and a wall painted with stars. As she worked, her hand grew steadier, her eyes sharper. "We should have a room just for moms," she murmured. "Somewhere quiet, soft chairs, coffee, a place to breathe." Ethan leaned in. "I like that. What else?" They spent hours like that, talking, drawing, reimagining. The blank spaces on the blueprint began to fill with color and life. Anna proposed a playground with recycled materials, and Ethan added a rooftop garden. She suggested murals painted by local artists, and he sketched in a studio space for art therapy. It wasn't long before the project stopped feeling hypothetical. It started to feel like theirs. As the day turned to evening, the sunlight faded through the tall windows. Anna stepped back from the table, arms crossed, lips twitching into the hint of a smile. "You really think we can do this?" she asked. Ethan turned to her, resting his hands in his pockets. "Anna, you did more than save my son. You reminded me why I started designing places like this in the first place." She looked at him, uncertain. "You're not just part of this project," he added. "You're the heart of it." Her throat tightened. For the first time in years, she felt seen, not as someone broken or burdened by her past, but as someone capable, someone needed. That night, they walked together along the riverside path that led back toward the busier part of the city. The streets glowed in soft amber light, and the breeze carried the scent of distant fireplaces. They didn't talk much. The silence between them had grown comfortable. As they turned a corner and paused beneath a tree strung with fading fairy lights, Ethan glanced down at her. He didn't say a word. He simply reached for her hand. Anna's breath caught as his fingers gently intertwined with hers. Their eyes met. She saw no pressure in his gaze, no expectation, only warmth, only truth. In that quiet moment, something shifted. The distance between them wasn't so wide anymore. Not between a man who had once lost his wife and a woman who had lost everything, but standing in the glow of something new, quietly, steadily growing. Chapter. The story broke on a Wednesday morning. A local news outlet had picked it up first. Millionaire architect seen with mystery woman from fire to fairy tale. The article included a blurry photo of Ethan and Anna leaving a cafe together, Leo skipping between them. By noon, it had spread across social media like wildfire. Comments flooded in. "She was homeless. This has to be a setup. He's clearly being taken advantage of. From the streets to a millionaire's heart. How convenient." Anna read the headlines with a hollow stomach. She wasn't on social media, but word traveled fast. People whispered even inside the shelter now. She could feel the shift in the way others looked at her, less like a neighbor, more like a spectacle. Ethan tried to shield her. He refused all interviews, turned down every camera crew, and kept showing up at her side just like before. But someone else wasn't so forgiving: his mother. She called one evening while Ethan was with Anna and Leo at the park. He stepped away to answer, his voice low and tense. Anna only caught fragments. "It's not like that, Mom. I know who she is. She saved Leo's life, for God's sake." Later that night, he told her the truth. "She thinks this is all a phase," he admitted, avoiding her eyes. That you're using me." Anna stayed silent. She had feared this day would come. A week later, they were in the kitchen at Ethan's house on a quiet Sunday morning. Leo was upstairs napping. Anna stood by the window watching the wind stir the trees. "I talked to her again," Ethan said carefully. Anna turned. "Your mom?" He nodded. "She's just worried, protective. She doesn't even know me. She thinks you're only here because of what I can give you." Anna looked away. "And what do you think, Ethan?" He hesitated a second too long. Then softly he said, "I just want to give you a better life, one you deserve." The words landed like stones in her chest. She laughed once, a short, pained sound. "So that's what this is? What do you mean? You think I need to be rescued? You think I'm broken? That I'm lucky to be standing here with you? That if it weren't for Leo, I'd still be sleeping in the dirt and you'd never have looked twice? That's not fair," he said, his voice rising. "I never said that." "But you thought it," she retorted. He took a step toward her. "Anna." She backed away, her eyes wet now. "I thought this was real. I thought you saw me." "I do," he insisted. "No, Ethan, you see someone to fix, not someone to love." She turned before he could speak again. By the time he reached the living room, she was already gone. She didn't take anything, not the sweater he bought her, nor the scarf Leo had made with glitter and glue. She left only a folded note on the coffee table addressed in careful handwriting. Ethan sat down slowly, his hands trembling as he opened it. "Dear Leo," the note read, "you are the brightest light I have ever known. You made me feel safe when I thought I never would again. But I'm not meant to be your mother. You deserve someone whole, someone without so many cracks. Thank you for loving me anyway, Anna." The words blurred through Ethan's tears. Upstairs, Leo called out softly in his sleep, "Mama." Ethan closed his eyes, pressing the note to his chest. For the first time since the fire, the house felt completely empty. The lights in the gallery were warm, casting a soft glow over rows of easels and display boards arranged along the exposed brick walls. Dozens of sketches, blueprints, and 3D models lined the room, each one a piece of the future. At the center stood a large, detailed rendering of the Little Lights Children's Center. Ethan adjusted the microphone at the podium as the room filled with community leaders, city officials, journalists, and residents. Cameras flashed. Murmurs of curiosity rippled through the crowd. It was the first public unveiling of his most personal project yet. But for Ethan, this wasn't about architecture, it was about her. He took a deep breath and began. "This," he said, gesturing to the massive blueprint behind him, "is more than a building. It's more than a project or a pitch. It's a promise." The crowd quieted. "I've spent years designing spaces for people who've been overlooked, rebuilding neighborhoods, shelters, playgrounds. But this one changed me." He paused. His voice grew quieter, more deliberate. "Many of you may have heard rumors. You've seen the headlines about a woman, a so-called mystery savior, from the fire last month." A few nods and camera clicks. "I know who she is, and I want you to know her too." Ethan turned slightly, his gaze flicking toward the front row, where Leo sat beside a friend, clutching a small bouquet of paper flowers. She didn't want credit. She didn't want fame. She didn't even want thanks. She just wanted to help. He stepped aside and pointed to a smaller board behind him. Anna's original hand-drawn sketches. The reading nook, the mother's room, the play therapy space. She helped design this. She inspired every inch of it. Her name is Anna Blair. A ripple of recognition moved through the room. Ethan turned back to the microphone, his voice thick with emotion. "Anna didn't need me to save her. I needed her to remind me why I do what I do. She saved my son's life, and she gave mine new meaning." He looked down for a second, collecting himself, then looked straight into the sea of cameras. "She is not a project. She is not a charity case. She is the bravest, kindest, most brilliant woman I have ever known, and I love her." There was a beat of silence, then an eruption of applause. Phones recorded and journalists scribbled notes, but Ethan wasn't watching them. Outside, across the street, beneath a canopy of dusk and shadows, Anna stood half-hidden, her coat pulled tight around her. She had come only to see the blueprints. She had told herself she would leave before he even took the stage. But then she heard her name, and then she heard everything else. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she watched Ethan speak, as she saw Leo waving his paper flowers, as she saw the room full of people who believed in something she had helped build. She had never imagined being seen like this. For the first time in years, Anna didn't feel like a ghost in someone else's life. She felt real. She felt loved. A soft breeze carried the scent of fresh paint and newly planted flowers as people gathered beneath a white canopy strung with paper lanterns. Balloons bobbed in the morning sun, and a banner stretched across the building's entrance in bold, colorful letters, "Grand Opening Little Lights Children's Center." The building stood bright and full of life, its walls painted with murals of stars, hearts, and hopeful hands. Inside, classrooms waited with shelves of books, tiny chairs, art supplies, and rooms designed with warmth and care. Right by the front doors hung a polished brass plaque that read, "Little Lights, founded by Anna Blair and Ethan Grayson." Anna stood by the steps, dressed simply but glowing in the late morning light. She greeted every guest with a smile, shaking hands and hugging women she had met through shelters and support groups. Many of them had children in tow, some shy, some wide-eyed with wonder as they ran into their new second home. She had been named the director of the center just 2 weeks earlier. The role fit her like it had been waiting all along. She was the heartbeat of the place, patient, present, and full of purpose. Near the edge of the crowd, Leo danced between guests with a lollipop in one hand and a tiny plastic hard hat on his head. "I helped build the reading room," he shouted proudly to anyone who would listen. Ethan stood beside Anna as she finished her welcome speech. His hand brushed hers. She looked over at him, and he smiled, but there was something nervous in his eyes. Excited, hopeful. When the clapping died down, Ethan took the microphone one last time. "I want to thank everyone who helped bring Little Lights to life," he said, "and one person most of all." He turned toward Anna and Leo. He lowered himself onto one knee, not in front of Anna, but in front of Leo. "Leo," he said gently, "I have a very important question for you." The crowd chuckled softly. Anna froze her eyes wide, her hand rising to her chest. Ethan continued, "If I asked your angel Miss Anna if she'd marry me, would you be okay with that?" Leo's eyes lit up. He dropped his lollipop and threw his arms into the air. "Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes, now I can have a real mom." Laughter rippled through the crowd, followed by a few quiet tears. Then Ethan stood and turned to Anna. His voice was quieter now, just for her. "You saved my son. You changed my life. You made me believe again in family, in healing and love. Anna Blair, will you marry me?" Tears welled in her eyes. She nodded breathless and whispered, "Yes." He pulled her into a hug, and Leo dove in between them, wrapping his arms around their legs. The three of them stood together, tangled in each other's arms, as the crowd cheered, camera shutters clicked, and the morning sun broke through the clouds above. Later, as they walked hand in hand through the garden path behind the center, Leo skipping ahead, Anna looked back. The building shimmered in the golden light. The windows glowed like promises. Laughter drifted through the open doors. For the first time in her life, Anna wasn't just surviving. She was home. But if this story touched your heart, even just a little, if it made you believe again in the power of kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of love, then this is the place for you. At Soul Stirring Stories, we bring you real, emotional, and unforgettable tales that heal, inspire, and remind us all what truly matters. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that could change your day or maybe even your life. Thank you for watching. We're honored to have you here. Until next time, stay kind, stay hopeful, and keep believing in beautiful endings.